Well, hello there, you little buckaroos. This is an episode of our podcast, and you may be wondering why it's being released 2 weeks after Halloween. Well, you see, everybody, we're all just little busy bees, so I'm now going to present to you a very early Halloween 2023 episode. Hope you enjoy it, and make sure to check out our next episode when it's released in the imminent future. Bye!
Spooky.
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 Spooky time.
Spooky.
Spooky time.
Spooky.
Spooky time.
Spooky.
I'm going home.
It was like the ASMR. It's like some spooky ASMR.
Well, listeners, today is Spooky Day.
Spooky.
Spooky.
Come on, Chris. You know you want to do it one time.
Spoopy.
We'll take it. We'll take it.
It's a
I'm
haunt-
scared
It's a
by
haunted
your...
pooping. Let's go.
That scared me. Yeah. But today, what are we talking about?
We talking about spooky things.
Spooky. Specifically, movies based off of true stories that are terrifying to us.
Now, just to preface, it doesn't have to be like movies that are based on true stories. Just movies that if it happened, it could have happened in real life, and it would really fucking suck if it happened in real life. Kind of
Movies based on true stories that are terrifying.
What Becky's describing is every horror movie ever made.
I know.
Yeah.
I wouldn't think of like a Victorian era demonic possession where a nun like is the priest that stays the exorcism. I'm not talking about those. I'm like talking about like somebody busts into your house and you have to like survive.
That happens every day, Becky.
That's what I'm saying.
And
Those
usually
count as horror
people don't
movies,
survive.
right?
I
Yeah.
just don't know if it's talking about like a specific horror movie that's based on a true story.
Well, mine is.
Mine is too.
Because that's what we said.
Okay, well mine is kind of.
That's fine.
I mean, it happens every
Why don't we
day.
start with yours then?
Oh, mine's The Strangers. I mean, I just literally prefaced it.
Okay, but tell us some more. This
Hi,
podcast
Al.
will take 10 minutes.
I saw The Strangers. It was
Yeah,
scary.
yeah, it was
The
scary.
It was
end.
terrifying.
No, okay. I mean, I will tell you like legitimately like what the story is, but I'm saying like it's not a story that's based on an actual true story, but it's based on things that have happened to people. If you don't know what the movie The Strangers is, it's kind of one of those movies that when you first see it, you're kind of like, okay, this could be really lame, but then you start watching it and you're like, oh, this is actually a terrifying premise when you think about it. Came out in 2008. And it starred Neve Campbell and some random ass guy who was in the movie. I don't even know who he was. But the premise of the movie is it's a couple who comes back from a wedding and they're staying at the husband's vacation home, their summer vacation home, and they're kind of having some like relationship difficulties. That you kind of catch them in the middle of like a fight between the two of them because Neve Campbell's character doesn't want to marry. Is it Neve Campbell? It's not Neve Campbell. It's Liv Tyler. I'm so fucking stupid. They're two very different actresses.
Ladies and gentlemen, we didn't give her this topic. This was her own choice.
This was
She picked this herself and knows nothing
Angie
about
picked
it.
And to be fair, Angie picked it. I did, but I was looking at Scream, which was why I was thinking Neve Campbell. But no, Liv Tyler's character is like, hey, I don't want to marry you. And he gets really mad because, hey, maybe we should be together. So he's about to like dip out when somebody comes knocking on the door. It's this random strange woman looking for somebody else. They say, hey, you got to get the hell out. There's nobody here that's by that name. And then throughout the movie, as it's like building up, it's like you're in your house. And then in the background, you see like a face of somebody just standing there. So not a ghost, not anything. It's somebody who's broken into your fucking house, just standing in the background. And it's like you get that, that sense of when you think somebody's watching you and you kind of turn around and you're like, oh, nobody's there. But that's sort of what the idea of it is at the very beginning of the movie. It's this idea of like, if you look in a doorway and you see somebody's just looking back at you. And it's not like a ghost, it's like an actual person. So throughout the movie, they figure out like, hey, these people are trying to bust into our house. It's these people wearing these like obscure masks on their face. They realize that the woman who had come knocking on the door was sort of like the leader of the like person kind of scoping the house, and realize that these are the only two people here. They break in, steal their cell phones. They're trying to get, basically, there's a barn where there's like a walkie-talkie that they can probably radio for 911 because they've cut the lines, they've cut the electricity. It's kind of a survive the night sort of movie. I like to think of it like The Purge, but The Purge's premise is like that whole, like, you have to, one day there's crime. This is just a house break-in. But the thing that scared me the most about that movie is the fact that when Liv Tyler's character is like tied up and both her and her boyfriend are sort of just sitting there staring at each other. They're being stabbed to death, like just tied up, stabbed over and over again. They're laughing. And she's like, why are you doing this? Because you think there has to be something with these two characters that these people are coming after them.
Yeah, they're crazy.
No, they just say, it's because you were here. And it's like, oh, that's awful. Like, just the idea that you are just existing in your own little world. And somebody decides, today I choose violence. Like, I'm going to bust into this house. I'm going to come in and, fucking torture these people, steal whatever they have, and just dip out. And you have no idea it's going to happen. You have no idea that this is something coming. It's not like you're some, like, high-profile actor or president or somebody where people are out to get you. You're just, like, run-of-the-mill Joe Blow, and it happened to be this day some people decided to bust into your house. And it's scary because you hear about it all the time in the news. Like, you hear about people who have broken into people's houses, and there was a couple, I think it was an older couple in Atlanta, that this guy broke into their house, decapitated them, and just left. And it was no reason
Still
whatsoever.
unsolved.
Yeah, still no reason why they did it. They couldn't link it to any family members, anything like that. The shooting in Grantville, he just wanted to rob them. They were just going about their business that day, and somebody decided that they wanted something of them. I think that, to me, is one of the scariest premises, especially working as a prosecutor. Like, you hear these stories about, like, the ones where it's, like, gang-related shootings and stuff like that, they don't bother you as much, but the ones where it's, like, we had a case in our county where a woman was just getting ready to go to a wedding, and we think what happened is, as she was coming out of the shower, the guy had broken into her house. She tried to run out. She was naked, screaming for help, and he, overcame her and strangled her to death. Like, those are just scary. To me, those ideas and premises in movies are more terrifying than ghosts because it's something that can just happen in an instant. It can happen to you at any point. I just don't know.
And there's no way to just defend against crazy.
You can't. There are. In Georgia, you can shoot them.
The tooth vagina.
Right. The tooth vagina is one option. But it's like ghost stories are scary, but you can always suspend your belief in it. Like, hey, it's a ghost story. Nobody's going to get fucking possessed if, you do this, this, and this. But just the idea that you're sitting in your own house and somebody invades that to me is like, The Strangers has stuck with me as it's not one of those movies I list as like my top horror movies, but it's one of those that just kind of sit adjacent as a movie that has unsettled me since like 2008.
Because let's be real, people are way scarier than monsters.
Yes, people are way scarier.
We are the monsters.
Yeah, and it's not because you don't have to like pretend that it's not something that's could happen to you. These are things that happen every day. You hear about it on the news. So that to me is when you were talking about things that are based on true events. That was the first movie that popped in my head.
Or like recently, the 4 bicyclists, I think in Colorado, just out for a bike ride and brutally murdered and left.
Yeah.
For no reason.
No reason.
Because they were there.
Yeah. So generally there is a reason. We just don't know what it is. So like even with the one like you're talking about in Grantville where they went and killed the gun shop, the shooting range.
Yeah.
That kid had worked there.
Right.
He knew that they had money and stuff. So there was a reason involved. It's just we think it's stupid.
Right. But it's also it's more of the idea of like you kind of exist in your own little world. Like you think you're safe. They went to work thinking they're safe. They don't have any reason to be concerned. And somebody decides that this is the reason why I'm going to do this day. And there's nothing you can do about it. You can't, there's no, there's no negotiating with crazy.
Absolutely not.
So once that decision is made and you're kind of done. So I think that to me it's the lack of control in a circumstance like that. Like you've chosen to take somebody's life in a gruesome way like that. I can't. Like The Strangers to me is like one of those movies that you get to the end and they're just like, we just decided because you were here. It's like, in reality, that is not a realistic expectation you see in most murders or anything like that. A lot of home invasions involve money or anything like that, or, crimes of passion. A lot of murders are domestic violence related. But the idea that is just like, hey, you were just home.
Mm-hmm.
I can't. It's one of those things where it's like you just can't control you lose the self control, or you lose the control over your own decision about living.
See, and that one doesn't bother me so much because you don't see that in like groups of people. You see it like solitary people, like the nut jobs that show up, cut your head off, and leave. You can't deal with crazy, but usually there's not 4 crazy people that are all in sync. They're like, we're going to show up at somebody's house and murder them, and the end.
Yeah.
There's usually a reason involved.
I think a lot of times where you see these, like, big groups of it is going to be younger people, like kids and all that, who make stupid snap decisions. And they're like, hey, and let's go do this. And then it, like, escalates to a point where there's no turning back. So I know The Strangers isn't one of those things that you're going to expect to just happen on a Wednesday while you're sitting at your house playing Valorant. But I think the idea of it is just so unsettling that you have no control over your life just being taken. Like, there was no reasoning to it. Just felt like doing it this day. So that's my movie. I mean...
And it's not a bad movie. Please ignore her synopsis. It's actually good. Go see it.
It's actually a really good movie. I mean, it's one of those... there's not really anywhere else to explain it. It's a home invader movie. So you're
Becky describes it like someone that heard the Cliff Notes versions from someone else.
Yeah.
But it's actually a good movie.
It's like telephone
and I'll be honest
notes.
with you, I'm trying to do it based on what I remember it.
Like what
bothered
you
me
about
it. Yeah, because if I go and read the synopsis now, I'm like, well, it's not that so bad. But
Neve Campbell scares the shit out of me.
What?
Neve Campbell scares the shit out of me.
Neve Campbell, listen, Scream, also a slasher queen. Just gonna say, I know. I was like thinking Neve Campbell doesn't sound right. It's Liv Tyler. Sorry. But it's funny because slasher movies to me aren't scary. So, like, they just aren't. But then you get to, like, The Strangers, which it kind of is a slasher movie. It's not, like, in a similar fashion to Scream. But that idea is terrifying. And I think what really is the unsettling part is, like, being in your house. And everybody's had this problem. You're standing in your hallway about to go to bed. And, like, you think somebody's looking at you. And you turn around and there's nobody there.
Oh, there's somebody, Becky.
I like to think, well, it's a ghost.
There's somebody.
But imagine it's somebody who's broken into your house. How do you, like... talk that away from yourself? You can't.
So I keep a pump shotgun by my door, in my bedroom and the front door, and there have been nights where you hear something outside. I'm like, oh, that's a person. Let's grab the pump and walk outside and see what we're gonna deal with.
Oh yeah, I mean, where my parents live, it's it's kind of rural. You can hear everything.
Yeah.
And some nights you wake up and you hear the noises and you can hear the motion detectors going off, and it's easy. I mean, most of the time it's deer.
Yeah.
But then it's like
possum or raccoons because my wife throws food out for them. But you hear them on leaves and it's like crunch, crunch, crunch by my bedroom window. I'm like, nope, not gonna deal with this.
I don't know what that is. I'm like, in your head, your intuition is like, it's an animal. But then there's that part of your brain that's like, listen, motherfucker, somebody's bucking in your house.
I'm not gonna. So the way I look at it is, I'm not gonna try to figure out if it's a person or animal from inside the house. We'll figure it out when I put eyes on them in a shotgun.
But see, that's such a white person response. It's like, let me go check it, and then it turns out to be like a ghost axe murderer. I don't know. So
he's getting a chest full of shotguns.
When you said ghost axe murder, though, I pictured him like, shh.
Yeah.
What's that? That's a spicy smell.
Is that dark chocolate axe spray?
Why does this murderer smell like a 14-year-old boy?
And I mean, like what I'm saying, like it's all really teenagers. Let's be honest.
And that's the thing is, like, we have. So my neighbors have 3 kids that will sometimes like cut through my yard.
Yeah.
Because they'll go to like the neighborhood that's over next to ours. So like I never know if it's them. So I have to check. Like I gotta find out because
you just want to know.
I don't want to deal with it once it's in my house.
Right, and I totally get that. That's part of my thing is like Angie will say she sees something or hears something out in the backyard, and I'm like, let me just look out the window and see what it is.
Y'all are also different. It's different. I think it's different because Casey's not going outside.
Right.
Like my wife will not leave the house.
Right.
I go out there in my flip-flops and my whitey-tighties with a shotgun.
Yeah, okay.
And we're going to figure out what's happening.
Let's put this in perspective. Becky opens the door wide open, leaves it open, and walks out with no weapon.
Yeah, I'm not
and
doing
is like,
that.
who's out here?
I got the gun show right here, baby.
Who is out here?
Left and right.
Show your face.
Becky's going to get knifed to death.
She is. And you know what? I'm going to pretend to be asleep and not see that.
Have you ever, like, okay, on a note, have y'all ever thought, like, and this is, I mean, I get where your ears, like, pumped shotgun, let's go.
I live in the country. I'm
I get
not
it.
dicking around.
But have you ever, like, thought, like, you know what'd be fun? Or not fun, but funny if somebody ever busted in your house? Because a lot of times when it's people busted in your house, it's, like, kids being stupid.
People you know.
Yeah. Like, imagine, I used to have this idea that what if this ever happened at my parents' house, I had fake blood and a katana. And I'm like, I would love to pretend to be like a ghost and like run at them because most of the time they're not armed.
I would bet $1,000 million that is not your first response.
I wish it would be. I wish I could like have that. I get that, but like
she trip on the stairs.
Yeah, right. But like in your
Run, she's
mind,
crazy.
when you're like explaining something in your head, you're like, I could totally pull this off. I would just love to see somebody's response as like somebody else like looking like the murderer. Like, oh, you came into the house the wrong day, baby, and you're like cutting somebody's dead body or something.
Yeah. Okay, Becky, I don't fantasize about cutting
That's like
dead
Don't
bodies.
Breathe.
So that happened
that was
at my
a good one.
parents'
That
house.
was a great movie.
That happened at my parents' house when I was 16. We lived, and I mean, like, when I say in the country, it was like 100 acres of just woods around us. There was nothing.
Right.
So I'm in the living room one night watching Adult Swim at like 3 a.m. All the lights in the house are off except for the TV. So it's dark as hell, and I hear, like, on the front porch, and we had, like, a big wraparound porch, and I hear, like, walking on the porch. And I'm like, oh, somebody's dog has got loose. Like, it's 3 a.m. and where we're at, no one's coming on the porch for anything.
Yeah, nobody's driving this far out to come break in somewhere.
Yeah. So I'm sitting there, and I'm listening for it, and I'm like, okay, the dog's going to bark or run away. And then I hear the front door handle, like, jiggle. And everything's locked.
Like, wait, dogs don't have opposable thumbs.
And I get off the couch. I slow crawl into my bedroom. I grab the shotgun. I put it to the door, and I jack around in. And I said,
And you can't mistake that
the
sound.
next one's coming through. And then I hear, and then running.
Yeah.
And there's no mistake. And again, if he would have jiggled the door handle, I would have blew a hole in his chest, and we'd have figured it out later.
Yeah.
Again, I just, no one's coming in. We're going to figure it out before you get inside.
I think women have a different perspective on that too, just because of like you hear all the time like women always are worrying about something happening.
Well, it's different too because like if I get in a fist, if it gets to where we're rolling around on the ground with a grown man, I have a chance to beat him.
Right.
You're probably not.
No.
Like you're just not strong
unless
enough.
I sit on them and fart on them. Like really.
Yeah. But like even with my wife, like she's not going outside. She has mace. She doesn't use guns, or she doesn't use a knife. I'm not going to try to pistol somebody. I'm not going to try to wing them on the fly. I'm going to put a big spray of buckshot out, and we're going to let the chips fall where they will.
Yeah.
I'll call the
and
cops
your
after.
body pieces fall where they will.
I'll just call the cops afterwards and be like, you tried to break in.
Yeah.
And I'll pull you across the threshold.
You need me to take me to jail? Take me to jail.
Yeah.
We'll worry about that after.
I'll tell you, every time we go to like Blue Ridge or where we rent a cabin, the first thing I think of is like, I hope this is not the strangers happening to us or some stupid shit like that. Because it would be like the, banjo seeking people.
No. Here's Becky and Blue Ridge. Okay, we were outside sitting around a bonfire playing games and stuff. And it was 3 of us sitting. First of all, I didn't really like it, but I wanted to face the road where people are. But my back is to the bottom, like the mountain, the woods. And from behind us, we hear a growl. And it wasn't quiet. It was loud. Scoob's fat ass beat us all back to the cabin.
Sounds
and then
right.
we're like, there's something in the woods. And it was big. It was bigger than us. And I turn around. Becky and the rest of them are just standing there. About that time, all the lights go out on the mountain. And I'm like, why are y'all still standing there? There was fucking growling.
Yeah, we're going inside.
Yeah.
So.
And you were just mad because your werewolf game was ruined.
I was enjoying that game.
When we go to my wife's place up in the mountains, I carry a pistol with me. Not because of people, but there are animals. There are bears. There are things around. My buddy has a place in the middle of Alabama that has wild hogs that are aggressive.
Yeah.
I carry a 40 with me because I'm not getting
and they will
by a
kill
hog.
you.
Yeah, they'll fuck you
and
up.
I really like you. I don't want to die.
I'm not dealing with that.
She got killed by a pig. Like,
And again, I normally don't carry. I just don't want a gun on me. I don't carry in public. However,
she died as she lived, eating bacon.
If I know there's going to be animals that can murder me, I'm taking a weapon.
Oh, and then so everybody that night was giving us such shit. And then there it is, mountain lion. And for her to be that aggressive, we figured she probably had cubs
somewhere
around there, based on the time of year. But what was funny is right as we reached the house and they're still outside, boom. I don't know why all the lights went off. I don't know if it was like the baby Jesus, like, y'all watch this, it's going to be funny. Fook. To turn the lights off.
Turn the lights. But yeah, so The Strangers.
All right.
What about you, Chris? What's your movie of choice when you're thinking of real things that are spoopy?
So the one that scares me the most is The Exorcism of Emily Rose.
Oh, God.
which is based on an actual German case. The girl's name was Anneliese Michel.
Yeah.
They have recordings of her. And so basically when she's 16, this girl has a seizure. They diagnose her with psychosis. She's hearing things. She's seeing things. But it's not debilitating. It's not to the point where she can't go to... When she turns 18, she goes to university. And again, she's dead by the time she's 20. She's 20 when she dies. It's not that this is frightening because it's people. It's frightening because no one understands what's going on.
Right.
Like, if there is demonic possession, this is what it's going to look like.
Right.
It's not just psychosis and seizures. There is no cure for whatever's wrong with this girl, and she's wasting away because she's refusing to eat. She's speaking in tongues. She has a problem with all things religious. Like, you can't bring anything religious near her or she'll panic. So initially they put her on antipsychotics and medication, and none of it worked. Like, she just kept having breakdowns. The family, and this happened in Germany, is very Roman Catholic. Between her speaking in tongues and the way she's acting, they decide she's possessed. They call the Vatican. They get a hold of the Vatican. The Vatican says, no, we're not going to do an exorcism. 6 weeks pass. 2 separate priests go to the local bishop and say, we need to do an exorcism. The bishop says, okay, you can keep it quiet. They want it. The Vatican said no, but this is clearly the case that needs
Or about
to
the black market exorcist somebody.
Yeah. So over the course of the next year and a half, they do 67 separate full Roman rite exorcisms on this girl, and nothing takes. She eventually starves to death. Like, literally her cause of death is malnutrition because she refuses to eat.
Yeah.
Her parents and the 2 priests involved are charged with negligent homicide. They all do 6 months in jail. The priests refuse to admit they did anything wrong. The parents refuse to admit they did anything wrong because they really don't know what else they could have done. It's just... And you can go listen to the actual audio recordings of her speaking in tongues and screaming, and they have some recordings of some parts of the exorcisms. It's horrifying, and it scares me because I really believe demonic possession, if it's real, this is what it's going to look like, and there is no recourse for it. Mm-hmm. It is terrifying, and again, towards the end of her possession, or her psychosis, or whatever you want to call it, I guess she realizes nothing's going to work for her, and Anneliese Michel says she's doing this for all the youth that have gone astray. This is why this is happening to her. For the youth that have gone astray, and for the basically the Catholic priests who don't believe and are doing things the wrong way. She's taking on all of that to cure that problem, which is also terrifying to me that she knew she was going to die from this one way or the other, and they couldn't make her eat. She just wouldn't eat anything.
Well, when she would try, she would
throw it up,
and it would be bile.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of people say she wasn't possessed; it was abuse and da. But some things, I'm like, when she threw up,
she's one of the ones.
It was viscous and black and bile.
And she speaks in tongues, and again, they say
of languages she shouldn't know, but they're like, oh, she studied it.
Oh, she heard it one time in a book
and knew it,
and knew how to speak it fluently. Either she's a savant or not. This is what real possession looks like. I couldn't speak
Hasidic Jew. Like,
I don't. And here's my thing is, like, even if you don't adhere to the demonic possession part, which I don't, the fact that it is such a severe mental disorder that they can't treat, they can't figure out how to help her. It's scary because it really goes to show you, like, we don't understand the human mind. We don't know what causes these things to happen.
And if it is demonic, it was so insidious that you can't really pinpoint that it was. And you can't pinpoint that it wasn't.
But I think that's what real possession looks like. I don't think it's the exorcist head up, like, spinning around, throwing up pea soup.
Although that would make it really easy to identify.
Yeah, but I think that's more people trying to, like, mimic what they think exorcism is supposed to look like.
Mm-hmm. And I think the pea soup part actually was based on Anneliese Michel from The Exorcist.
It was because she would throw that up.
Yeah. But I'm saying,
you could give her, like, bacon and she'd vomit up like a swamp.
But I think real exorcism, real demonic possession is that heinous and soul-crushingly unbeatable probably 99% of the time. I think a lot of these people either commit suicide or get called crazy, and there is no help for them. And again, with her, like, antipsychotics did nothing.
Yeah, right.
It didn't. I mean, literally nothing for her. Mm-hmm. And she knew, she believed she was possessed, and maybe she was. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe what she...
And maybe it didn't start out that way, but her belief in it made it so.
Well, I mean, I get, and I totally get I'm not saying that it's not demonic possession. What I'm saying is what makes it sad is, let's say if you take it, completely remove it, is that this girl ended up dying because there was just nothing anybody could do to help her. The antipsychotics didn't work. I know there's
3 years ago into the doctor did nothing.
Yeah. I mean, and I mean, to be honest, even having priests trying to exorcise her didn't work. So,
well, and my thing is like, how, if she's that psychotic, I doubt she has the ability to convince two separate priests that she's not that she's possessed and not just crazy.
Right.
And one of the priests the whole time says, I've never seen her have a seizure. Like, I've been with her for 145 days straight. There have been no seizures. She's spoken to me in tongues and yelled at me and screamed at me, but there have been no actual seizures, which is also terrifying. Mm-hmm. Like, I just don't know. And that's the one case that it fucks with me the most, because I can't decide if she's actually just crazy or actually possessed.
Well, and that's the thing is, either which way you look at it,
it's bad.
It's bad.
Because there's no solution.
There is no solution. She could have some sort of psychotic episode that nobody has ever been able to identify. It was just a unique cause, a 1 in a billion chance that this was what it was.
Yeah.
And it just displayed as, when you're already in the mindset that it's a demonic possession, it displays like that. And there is some evidence of when you keep stating something over and over again, you can enforce that into somebody to believe it as well.
And my thing is, they didn't think it was demonic possession at first. Like, it got to that point, but they thought she just was sick. They took her to doctors. They put her on anti-psych meds. They thought she was just having seizures and epileptic episodes.
Right.
For the first 3 years. I mean, they really thought she was just sick.
Right.
So I'm curious as to what actually progressed.
And this was somebody in college who was doing well.
Yeah.
Had a boyfriend, had a good social life, in all appearances was happy, just out of the blue.
Yeah.
Started.
And that's the thing for me. Like, it's not like her parents were like, "Oh, you're possessed," the first time she got sick.
Right.
They went the medical route. They went to doctors. They went to shrinks. Like, they tried to help their daughter, and none of it worked.
Well, and it's also scary because then it's a what if that could happen to me kind of situation.
Well, that's the thing is...
Like, yeah, she was up for 20 years. She was fine. There was no signs of any sort of psychosis or any sort of mental health issues. And then suddenly, it just happened. And, I mean, they say that in a lot of schizophrenics.
There's a break.
There's a break. And a lot of times, it's women in between the ages of 25 to 30. And then men, it's like 27 to 35 or something like that. So, there are a lot of mental health disorders, which... if you're suffering from that, we're not saying it's a bad thing.
No,
we're just saying there are just some things that you think you'll go your entire life and you've made it, and then suddenly something happens and you're just like, oh, I don't know how to deal with this. And for a long time, I think even with recent medicine now, there's not a lot of answers to treating it other than medication and hard medications.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, and again, we're not saying if you're mentally unstable, you're crazy. I'm saying take your medication.
Yeah.
Like, if Annalise Michelle could have taken a variety of 4 pills and she would have never had any more problems, I guarantee you her parents, the doctors, the priests would have been like, take these pills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody in her life was trying to save her, and it was all just a waste of time, which is horrifying.
Yeah. And you can really tell, though, like, if there is such thing as demonic possession, she is the one that would... Because you see some on, like, you watch some of these videos on YouTube where they're like, this is a demonic possession. It's just a kid screaming while people are screaming in Latin at them. And it's
there's a snapshot of, like, a kid floating. You're like, well, you just bounced them on the bed.
Right.
Like, what are we doing here?
Poltergeist being a great example of it.
Yeah.
Like they're...
Why are we wasting time?
Yeah.
But I think, and that's how, and again, insidious and sinister and coy and below the radar, I think real possession is. I don't think it's this big, horrifying, walking on the ceilings type thing.
Yeah.
Sinister's probably the scariest movie I've ever seen. Sinister scares me even to this day.
I always said, like, I'm not limber or skinny enough to be possessed. So if a demon is looking at me for possession, I can't walk on the ceiling. I thought the cat was a demon. She jumped right at me.
I know, she literally
she
hey.
Was it behind the curtain like the Wizard of Oz doing stuff?
And now she's loving on Chris. She's making it know what she thinks.
Well, mine is going to seem a little silly after those two, but it's not. It's terrifying. And this story has inspired...
Yours is terrifying. Yours is absolutely terrifying.
It is terrifying. And this story has inspired movies such as The Hills Have Eyes and The Descent, which is hidden families of cannibals.
Yep, the cave peoples.
Yeah. The cave people.
The people who like went off to live on their own and they married themselves.
Right. So, oh, hi, baby. What do you get it? It's if you took The Descent and The Hills Have Eyes and you pushed the two of them together, you'd have a story that's very similar to what I found terrifying as a kid, and that's cannibals, a family of cannibals that live in a cave.
Yeah.
And it goes back to 1700s Scotland, and my uncle used to tell, so just keep in mind my family were first generation Irish immigrants. So my uncle would tell me terrifying stories about Shawnee Bean and the cannibal family. And this family lived in a sea cave right at the edge of Scotland and England. And they would, killed over 1,000 people and ate them. So it started with him and his wife, and they didn't want to work. And I mean, they're Scottish. They don't really have a lot of options to get rich. So they're like, you know how we could eat? Let's just kill people.
Yeah.
They had 8 kids who had, the whole family was born of incest. Because I don't know if he and his wife were brother and sister, but it said the whole family was incestuous. And then 32 grandchildren. And they would just lay traps and take people and back to the cave. They would pickle them, just eat them, use their skin, all sorts of terrifying things.
Pickled human toes.
Pickled toes. And so when the tide would come up, it hid the sea cave entrance. So it was really impossible to track them. Now, to be fair, this is back in the 1700s where England was demonizing Ireland and Scotland.
Yeah.
And Shawnee is like calling... It's not a nice name to call a Scottish person. Mm-hmm. It would be like using the, S word for someone from Puerto Rico or Mexico. Just think spick and span, okay?
Thanks for the elaboration. Okay.
But yeah, so Shawnee Bean and his wife. But the story goes that King John. Wait, it wasn't King John. I don't remember.
It was Neve Campbell.
It was Neve Campbell. King Neve Campbell.
Just showing up everywhere.
Yeah.
300 years.
Well, so he was a big hunter, and he decided that he would get 300 men in a party, and they would go deal with these cannibals. They were really well armed. And they hunted them, and they finally got them. He had to follow them into the caves, and there was an epic fight. And I'm like, what the fuck weapons do cannibals have? But he would rob these people, and whatever they needed, he would take the money, either him or his wife, and go into town and buy what, cannibalism couldn't do for them. And they were really healthy, apparently, because of all the protein, but, lacking in teeth and stuff. But it said, one of the stories goes that even the youngest child, when... she saw the king's party, was like, you'll make a good stew. So, anytime we would go anywhere, and I don't remember here, but somewhere around here, there's a lake that was made by a meteor. Mm-hmm. And anytime we would go to that freaking lake, meteor lake, where, had these enormous turtles, he'd be like, watch out for Shawnee Bean in the water. There's caves down there.
Your uncle was an asshole.
Yeah. I developed a huge fear of caves.
This Shawnee Bean guy in the 1700s coming and getting you.
Well, and so when I was 9, and this is awful, and I'm going to be really real with you listeners about some of my family history. My family was very poor. And when your family is very poor and uneducated, there is actual incest that takes place. So one of my mom's, second aunts or something like that was with her first cousin, and they had a very, very handicapped son, but he was freaking enormous. But I think his IQ was in the 30s. This was, you couldn't even really call him a person. I don't know how to say it without sounding mean.
He was he was alive, but
that was pretty much
cognizant.
It. He was just violence.
Yeah.
He was just straight up violence. So they'd be like, be careful, don't get too close to him. And they thought it would be funny to call him Shawnee. And so in my mind, he was
really was an asshole.
Well, I think it was to keep me away from him.
Yeah.
Because he probably would have legit hurt me. He did get me one time we were playing. And I don't know, if my mama hadn't come in, I don't know where I'd be at this point. Because he's just was nonstop drool and violence. And he'd shit himself. And I'd be like, what is going on here? But in my mind, he was Shawnee Bean. Mm-hmm. It's just terrifying. And then I watched The Hills Have Eyes. And it's about a family whose car breaks down in the desert. And lo and behold, right in front of the hidden hill, it has eyes, and you can see them looking out. And they take these people, and they chase them, and cook them, and
rape the shit out of them. A lot.
Yeah. So the whole thing was terrifying. And then Becky had me watch The Descent, which was a fantastic movie. Yeah. But the premise of it was these cannibalistic people who live down there in these caves, and a lot of the hikers and stuff that go missing and spelunkers are taken by these eaten. There's literally rivers of blood. Like, there's a lake of blood in that thing where they just keep this lake.
No, I love The Hills Have Eyes. That movie's cool.
Yeah, and people are like, oh, it's aliens in The Descent. I'm like, no, it's fucking Shawnee Bean and his family. Like, I know exactly who lives down there. But, again, it could just be a legend.
So, realistically, I love the Shawnee Bean story, personally, because it's like all the horrific things you could tell English people about the Irish and Scottish.
And you're like,
all together. They just put
they fuck each other
together.
They will steal from you.
My favorite part is they'll steal from you and go to town.
And they don't want to work.
Everybody in town is completely cool. This cannibalistic family just showing up to the local market.
Sorry, I need a loaf of bread so I can go with my pickled feet.
Did nobody ever ask? And they did this for years, 30 years? Yeah. And nobody once questioned how he had so much money.
It's every horror you could tell.
Every horror.
A 1700s English child, all into one.
Yeah, and just to demonize these two ethnicities.
Absolutely.
Doesn't want to work. One, he's lazy.
That's the big one.
I don't want to work.
So I'm gonna go
eat people
and do incest things.
Logical jump.
Yeah, I mean, how does not want to work? Oh, and they were very anti-religious.
Yeah,
they were practically satanic. Yep. So
because they ate their families.
It's just my thing is you know how much work it is to track people down and eat them against their will?
Yeah.
Sheep are stupid.
Yeah.
I can handle it. It won't even leave if I put a fence around it. Not even going to try.
And in the area they're in, you're not going to go kill livestock. You're going to, lay traps for people.
Yeah, no fishing, no crabs. Peoples.
How are people easier?
I will say this. The part that I am amused by is that they lived in a sea cave. You're literally right by the ocean, and you can't, crab or get...
Cannibals by the ocean. I keep on open.
No, my favorite... Yeah. In my brain, it's him just walking to town with, a sack lunch of hands. And he's like, we're out of soap. And you're like... Does no one in town give two shits about the cannibalistic folk that are just showing up?
The last two people
he's always wearing nice clothes. How?
Yeah, the last two people I ate were very lean. They didn't have enough fat to make some soap. Can I have some nice rosemary soap, please, sir?
That's funny. He's just gnawing on his snack of fingers.
But it's literally every horror thing you can imagine to tell a 1700s child that would make them grow up and hate those other two ethnicities.
I will say,
and a 1980s child.
Well, I didn't know people's families were still portraying this into the 80s, but what the hell?
Yeah.
But, I mean, I guess on the front side of that, though, at the same time, is it, it's a fear of what, we are so comfortable living in civilization. We consider ourselves civilized people, especially if you live from a city and you're not from, the country or a rural area. To go out into a rural area where there's nothing, and the first thing you stumble upon is these incestuous hillbilly cannibals. That's the idea people have. And there's no way to save yourself from it. I think that's what's scary.
And we still have this idea about West Virginia is that.
It's
the Appalachians.
It's the fear of the other.
Yes.
It's the thing we don't understand is what really frightens us the most, and it's these people live a way that's just horrific to us.
Yeah.
Shawnee Bean and his wife, if they really existed, probably just had a bunch of kids because everybody had a bunch of kids and they were probably just Scottish assholes because there were Scottish assholes. There still are Irish assholes. Everybody. It's one of those things that it's so funny to me to watch how afraid everybody is of the other thing and how tribal we are.
Yeah.
Versus I don't give a shit what they're doing. I just don't care.
Well, in the story of King John, the king's not gonna go out.
No.
Yeah, he could have been eaten. If Shawnee Bean were this vicious, but no, the king's not going to go out himself.
And trickstery.
Yeah.
I think it's you have such a long time of people, and I'm not talking about Scottish people, but the Appalachians of the people who live in the mountains, and you go out and there's no civilization, there's just wilderness. And you stumble upon these cave people.
Or wasn't Wrong Turn based on the same thing?
Kind of.
Cannibals?
Yeah. So, you're... it's you just make one bad decision and now you're fucked forever. And it's what's scary about the Appalachians are the actual legends of the Appalachians. That's what's scary, not the people that live in the Appalachians.
You do, and again...
Which, by the way, the Appalachians are Scottish and Irish.
Yeah.
That's where the immigrants are.
You do run into, especially in those places, the Appalachians... There is inbreeding going on, and there's there's a documentarian guy. You can watch him on YouTube. It's Soft White Underbelly, where he goes and interviews them. Like he shows up and talks. to them.
I've seen that.
But you're dealing with these
uneducated.
It's not just that. It's also these places that 50 years ago were closed off from the ability to really leave and get anywhere else.
Right.
It's so hard to travel. So, I married my cousin.
Well,
no one thought anything of it.
Well, you got to think, like, uneducated, impoverished.
Yeah.
But what money they were making, a lot of these towns were on industrial, like, mills and,
they
like,
were coal
mining.
towns.
They were coal towns.
Yeah.
And they owed the coal, it was a business.
And then when those closed, there's not...
The company store owed
there's not a lot
everything.
of, like, being able to leave those towns and then move to, like, New York City to find a new place to live. And
even if you could, you didn't have the wherewithal to have the knowledge that would help you survive up there. You didn't know how to... These people were literally farmers in places that don't encourage farming. It's rock and disaster.
Yeah.
And that's what they are. Like, and even now, I like Soft White Underbelly as a documentarian because he doesn't judge. He goes up there and talks to these people and he tries to find the history of it and moves on.
Yeah.
He's very polite. He's very nice. It's amazing to watch him talk to people. And he does interviews with, he goes to Appalachia. He goes to, I think his main office is in LA. And he talks to prostitutes and crackheads and pimps and everybody.
Right, just to get the real story.
Like, to find out what's really going on.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. We all know cannibalism has happened. It's not a
happens all the time.
It's
Yeah.
I think it's just like I think that's a great example of it, and I think it's just kind of continued on is like the idea of like the other, where it's like everything that you could be scared of a human being. Like, not only are they stealing your wives and children, but they're also sleeping with their own like sisters.
Well, and they're always portrayed as super large, dumb, and violent, which always takes me back to that memory of, I guess he was like a distant cousin removed, and they lived in the mountains of Georgia. And I don't know why we went there, but it was some kind of urgent thing. And he was just surrounded by woods as far as you could see. And then when we were leaving, we had to wait to leave because there was a bear at the top of the hill. Just a little black bear, but it's just like, that's my memory of that. Everything about that place was terrifying. And Mom was like, if you got to pee, we don't go in the bathroom. And she was like, you have to go outside. It's because they didn't have plumbing, but they continued to use that facility.
Oh, God.
Inside. Yeah, it was awful. But it was normal for them. Nobody thought anything was wrong with that.
Yeah, but they didn't know it even.
Yeah.
There's another movie like that called Bone Tomahawk with Kurt Russell.
Oh.
That it's like Native Americans that are like the cave-dwelling inbreeders, but they are violent and vicious, and it is...
Yeah.
It's gory and amazing. It is great.
It's called Bone Tomahawk.
Isn't like the Green Inferno similar in that kind of aspect, but it's like a tribe of people?
The Green Infernos, they're cannibals, but it's just like...
Don't they like go to this like island where there's cannibals or something like
that?
They
show up in like the Amazon to like stop logging, like a bunch of like hippies, and then they get captured.
Yeah, it's another kind of other idea. Like
that's the idea.
Which, by the way, if you ever want to watch a movie that's just gore, nonstop gore, Green Inferno, if you really want it, there was a part of me that's like, they really did that to those people. Like, that just looks too realistic.
Oh, it's so good. Well, you talk about like Cannibal Holocaust, which
was
like
another one,
the precursor to Green Inferno, which is it's kind of the same idea.
Mm-hmm.
It's just an older version. They tried to arrest those people because they're like, oh, they're obviously just killing people because the effects looked so real.
It looks so real.
So like the directors and producers had to produce the actors to be like, look, very much didn't eat him.
There was I can't think of it's one of the founding like rich families of the U.S. Their son went off to an island. He was like, you know what?
The Rockefeller.
Yeah. And he gets this island and there's pictures of him getting off the boat. And they're like, hey, how are you? Well, some people say he's still alive with them.
And this is one of like the New Guinea, Papua. It's over one of those little islands over there off Australia.
Where they're like, now they tell you like,
if
don't
your
go.
teeth are sharpened to knife points, serrated edges, I'm probably not going to want to visit personally.
Well, even with him, there have been pictures that show up that have a
white
guy
man,
living amongst the people, and you're like, well, I don't know how many white people showed up, but I know he was there at some point.
Right. It was just him and one other person, and it really looks like him.
And the other guy left.
Right. So, and it really looks like him.
Yeah.
So there's a theory that he just decided because he never liked the capitalism premise.
Well, he grew up in extreme lavishness. Like,
absolute opposite of a lot of these people.
And he wasn't a person who appreciated it.
No, he didn't want it.
Right.
He wanted to be real.
So maybe, I mean, he may have just went there to live with him and just live a simple
life. Or they're
life.
like, you have an option. You can join us, or you can become one of us.
They don't usually give you that option. There's usually not a choice because no one's going to take the latter. It's always the former.
You know what? I'd just rather be eaten at this point.
Oh, you're going to boil me alive and eat me? I guess I'll hang out for a while.
Can you at least marinate me before you do it? I think a couple of seasonings really will pump up the flavor.
And the thing
I just pictured it like, when you said you were going to eat me, I didn't think of bacon bits and marinade. I thought, some music.
Yeah.
And typically, historically, when we're getting into cannibalism, it's almost always ritualistic and always the enemies of whoever your people are. It's never like, as a general rule, it's not like, oh, Jamie died, so now we get to eat him. It's always like, oh, we took 17 prisoners from this other tribe.
And we're going to eat them.
Yeah.
We killed 12 of them. The other 5 are going to get served up at dinner.
And a lot of times, it's for rivalry purposes. It's not to do with anything like, hey, I just decided you looked like good bacon today. It's we're showing you our dominant ability to take
evidence that
people.
Even, like here in the U.S. and the tribes out west.
They know it happened. 100%.
Because it's in the DNA and stuff.
Yeah, they found it in the... And this sounds crazy because I've done a whole lot of research on this.
Poop.
Yeah, the coprolite. They literally took genetic tests of the fossilized Native American poop and found they were eating people.
Yeah.
It's like, what better way to truly destroy the morale of your enemy than to take their warriors or women and kill them?
So I don't think it was that. To them, I don't think it was to...
It was meat and a hard time?
No, I don't think it was to horrify. I think it had a higher meaning. I think it was like one of those
spiritual
we eat the deer heart as a symbol of strength and to honor it. I
want to know my enemy, so I'm going to eat.
Well, think about how ancient civilizations would sacrifice people to gods. That could have also been part of it. Like, we've sacrificed you, you are now part of us. Yeah, I mean, it's possible.
I mean, it's possible.
I don't think they did it as a form of horror or to scare the other tribes. No. I think it was more, I think it had a higher reason to them. Because they only did it in, ceremonial circumstances and huge. And again, it was after they'd already usually conquered the other tribes. So who are you scaring? The only people there to see it are your people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So who's there to horrify?
Yeah.
I think it has a higher meaning than that to them. And again, I don't believe you get someone's power by eating their heart, but I don't know. I've never eaten a person's heart.
I've never eaten a person's heart.
Yeah.
And you know what? I know I'd be delicious. I think I'd taste like pork belly.
So the thing is, when you eat too much people, you go crazy.
Yeah.
You get laughing sickness. So, you don't really hear about these long-lived tribes of cannibals.
No.
Because they'd all be dead.
Yeah.
Right.
What was it about humans that we eat? Why? Is it just because we're made of the same genetic makeup?
No, it's the things we also eat store toxins in our fat.
Right.
And when you eat a person, you're ingesting that.
Think about what's in this Diet Coke that
right.
I'm drinking right now. This is just poison.
But even you have to think, even the 1700s, they knew eating human beings to a certain extent would give you what they called laughing sickness.
Yeah.
You just go crazy. And that's before all the preservatives and shit we eat now.
Yeah.
That's just naturally
We're
cooking.
Just toxic.
Yeah, you can't eat people. Much.
I mean, if you want to peel off, a delicious tasting part of your brain and fry it up, I'll eat it. I'll taste it. I will.
The Free Rotation does not advocate or agree with these statements.
I would try some of your pork belly.
I'm just going to remind everybody that this podcast is about different perspectives of friends, and everybody can have different perspectives and also be wrong about it.
Yep.
So,
but again, I don't think
I'd eat it. I don't.
But in our brain, cannibalism is horrifying, and it's one of the worst things a human being can do. But to them, I don't think it was that way.
No,
I think it was a ritual and a higher power thing.
Mm-hmm. I mean, chickens eat chickens. They do.
But cows eating cows is bad. You get mad cow disease, and then same thing with people. You get laughing sickness, which is
and I think it's just more so we.
Oh, you get the tremors.
Yeah, we pride ourselves on being advanced and sophisticated people. Eating a human doesn't make a lot of sense. That's at the basis of a person. Incest and cannibalism. That's the basis.
Yeah.
But I don't judge those people,
No.
the people in the plane crash who were forced to eat a dead person.
I think
I don't judge them.
The Dahmer Party. I think when you get that's the Donner Party out west. The ones that was the Chilean soccer team.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there was also the boat people.
Yeah. Again, I don't think that
the boat people.
So, and again, even with piracy, so the rule was if your ship went down, you took 3 people, 2 to survive, 1 to eat when he died.
Yeah.
When you escape from prison in Siberia, that's their rule. you take 3 people because one of you will die on the way, and you have to have food or you will die.
Mm-hmm.
So
I just hope you're not the one to die.
That's it. I mean,
you're dead. What
and
if
you all 3 survive, good for you.
If you don't take 3, you will die.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And I don't look at survival as horror. I mean, it sucks when you have to do it. I assume, like, if you have to eat, like, your friends that died in a plane crash. But if I get to live to see tomorrow.
Well, and I don't think that. I don't perceive that as horror as well.
And if Casey needs it, and somebody's perfectly good meat right there, like if Becky needed food, and the only thing meat around was a person.
There's a reason I travel with A1. Just in case.
Say, like, I don't think it's the idea. Like, what's scary about that kind of cannibalism is the fact that you're in survival mode.
Yeah,
like,
you're
it's
only
like
survival.
You're having to survive, and it's like you've had to like put yourself to this point. But I think the idea that it's like the Hills Have Eyes is like they just do this because that's what they are.
Yeah.
Right, they're just vicious.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, well.
And in the scent, it was just the way that they survived.
Just the way.
And the thing is, like, my thing is, like, I look at those and it doesn't seem, I can't suspend reality because in my brain I'm like, oh, they could have just eaten mushrooms or fruit or beans or birds or the bugs that are in the cave. Like,
yeah, they could have gone up and snatched something.
Just left.
Yeah.
They know how to trap people. They can probably trap a bird.
Yeah. Or snake, anything that goes down those holes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
A bear.
That's why, like, I think about, like, homeless people. Like, if I was homeless, my first thing, like, I would just go catch as many pigeons as I could and start roasting them fuckers. Like, right away. Pigeon's the same bird genetically as a dove. Who doesn't want dove?
Yeah.
Like, I just, and even then, like, that's where my brain goes. Like,
it's just city chicken.
Yeah, I'm not eating people. Plenty of birds around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting about pigeons is they lived on tall cliffs. And then back in the day, people would actually relocate the pigeons to the cities because they needed them. And now we bitch about how they're swarming, but we did it to them.
And you look at France, like, pigeon is expensive on a menu. Like, it is a nice delicacy because apparently it tastes delicious.
There was like a Hell's Kitchen or Master Chef where somebody made pigeon and somebody made horse. Same person made horse. Yeah. But he was from somewhere where that was perfect. I think Italy or France. Somewhere it was acceptable to eat that.
Really popular in Europe. And again, I don't.
But not here in the U.S. He served horse, and it was like, oh my god, he served us horse.
My thing is, like, I don't even care if it's horse. The thing is, like, we don't have a system in place to make sure that the horses are treated properly and slaughtered properly, and that the meat isn't contaminated. So, like, if somebody serves your horse here, it's not great.
Yeah.
Over there, they've gone through a butchering facility. Like, the cleanliness is in place. Like, okay.
And I wouldn't eat alligator bites in Oregon. Like, same thing.
Yeah.
You don't know how to handle alligator.
This has been frozen and shipped here for a while.
Alligator bites?
Yeah, delicious. So I don't eat seafood unless we're within 100 miles of the ocean.
Becky won't either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just.
Now, I did enjoy 6 Feet Under. They did have pretty good food.
They had good catfish.
Yeah.
Like the catfish, I'm like, this is good.
Yeah, but catfish I can catch right over here.
Right over there.
Yeah.
I can throw a rock and find catfish. If you bring me like oysters, I'm like, I'm a hard pass on that, bro.
Yeah,
I don't know how to cook them.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of the oysters.
It's like, do you want to die? Because this is how you die.
Yeah.
I didn't want I wish I had tried the mussels though. The mussels. I love mussels.
See, I don't like mussels.
She liked them when we were all in. What was it?
Savannah
together. Yeah.
Casey loves mussels. I don't like mussels, and I don't know if it's. I had a bad one at some point because if they don't clean them out right, they're sandy and gritty.
Yeah, that's the oysters. They were like that. I told Angie because she was asking because Angie can't eat shellfish. She's like, "What does it taste like?" And it's like I've had oysters, and I'm like, oysters are good. And I told Angie, I was like, "This tastes like if I licked the bottom of the ocean right now."
Oysters are supposed to be not salty, but like minerally.
Yeah.
And kind of meaty and good. If they taste like ammonia and salt, it's bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how you know crawfish are going bad or any kind
ammonia.
of
salt.
ammonia smell.
As soon as you smell it,
it's dead.
The scariest part of this podcast: shellfish.
Dun, dun, dun. It'll kill me.
No crustaceans
for
Angie.
Yeah, Angie can't have any shellfish. I'm sitting there cracking some crab legs, and she's just staring at me, and I'm like, "It's good, man."
Okay, here's the thing. As someone who can eat shellfish, watching you guys eat crab legs is horrific. It is so violent and grotesque to watch you break apart a critter with your bare fucking hands. Rip out meat, dip it in some butter.
So, I think
terrifying.
Like, crabs and shrimp are like the bugs of the ocean, like insects of the ocean.
Yeah. Well, shrimp are the roaches of the ocean.
Zero fucks given will manhandle the shit out of a crab to get the delicious, delicious crab meat.
So yeah, I'm sure people
Bay seasoning on that shit.
People
butter.
who don't eat it,
melted butter,
or my other allergic people, watching somebody, especially crab, rip that poor thing open, like rip the legs off the body.
I wonder if that's like. I wonder. And this may be for our friends in the EU. Like, is crab legs like something they eat over there too?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. It's worldwide. Probably it's better crab up there in that colder ocean. I was just
curious because like we eat it very violently in the South.
They have Dungeness crabs up there, right? The nice,
but I'm like,
huge ones.
Like eat it like we do, like where we're like barbarically destroy them.
I mean, you can get like crackers and like the actual claw crackers and stuff.
Who the fuck wants a claw cracker?
I'm just saying you can use them.
Yeah. Angie was like absolutely horrified because she's like, "Are you going to use a claw cracker?" I said, "I don't need it." Bam, bam, bam.
Yeah, you just rip it out and pull the.
And she's covered in juice and grease and butter. It's dripping off her chin.
Oh,
her hands are disgusting, and she was like,
"It's the best.
It's so tasty."
So I look at that and I wonder, like, if God really put us here and really wanted us to do things like
and take care of all these things,
He's like, "Okay, I put it at the bottom of the ocean." In a rock hard shell where you can't fucking get to it. And we're like, nope, eating that motherfucker. Delicious.
We figured that shit out. You shouldn't have taught us how to make fire. That's what happened.
Like, I wonder about that if he's looking down like, you sons of bitches. I put it in a rock and you're still eating it.
Especially when they have, I can't think of the name of the intelligence test right now, but they've put dolphins and crabs and stuff like that through it. An octopus and dolphin are often smarter than most people, and crabs are like have the intelligence of an 11-year-old. Now we're not talking math and science, but their intelligence level is of like an 11-year-old child.
But we stick that shit in like hot water, like boiling water, and
alive.
I promise, if I tried to stick an 11-year-old in some water, he'd get the fuck out.
You see crabs crawling out of the pot all the time.
I also don't eat octopus because I firmly believe they're aliens.
Yeah,
I really do think that they are not from here. Mm-hmm. And that one day their parents are going to come back and be like, hey, what'd you do with all our kids? And somebody's going to have, like, calamari be like, oh, fuck!
Like where it's alive on the plate and they're just cutting it up and eating it live.
And I think because their intelligence is so different than anything else on Earth.
Right.
I don't think they're from here.
Yeah.
I don't think they evolved here.
And like when they talk about dolphins' intelligence have evolved beyond ours, but... It's not on our level of intelligence because on the survival of the fittest intelligence, that's us.
Yeah. And I will say it's kind of funny to bring it kind of back to what we're talking about today. It is funny. None of us talked about the idea of aliens existing being horrific. I'm down for it. It doesn't scare me. There are some people who are scared of what the unknown is in space. Like what is out there. And I'm like,
the pillars of creation I find horrifying.
Yeah.
And the four horsemen. Yeah. It's a little unnerving.
But I'm okay being a minute blip in the universe. And that's it. I'm okay with it.
I'm inconsequential in the grand scheme of things.
Yes, I'm okay with it.
When the aliens come back, I can't wait to see what they do.
Me and my cat's hanging out.
Well, I say it can't be worse. It could be worse.
Yeah, even if it is.
Dungeon crawler Carl.
That was...
What if they taste like crab?
Oh, shit.
Those poor things.
They come down and it's mommy and daddy crab, and it's like the aliens are like, well, your children tasted delicious. Thank you.
We'd have like specific like scuttling bombs and like blow their legs off as they're running sideways.
A whole bunch of people just show up with clackers.
Yeah, we actually were preparing for this war the entire time, and it was like melted butter, Old Bay seasoning in the claw crackers.
If you're from the South, you were set. Because it's just butter everywhere.
Coming for you, baby.
Paula Dean's out there leading an army. I got the butter.
Saying hard N-words.
Yeah. You crusty crustaceans.
That's not the ones.
Well,
I know.
What an enjoyable, spooky episode.
That's what we do.
It is what it is. Mm-hmm. But, oh man, I want some crab legs.
Let's name some good movies for people to watch. Scary.
For just scary movies in general for the Halloween time.
And you probably are with me, It Follows and Smile.
Yeah, those were really good.
Terrifying.
I would also suggest Hell House LLC. It sounds really fucking stupid. The title sounds stupid. Good. It's actually really good.
I watched it. I'm like, Beck, you got to watch this with me.
The Green Room. It's an A24 movie if you haven't seen it. It's got Patrick Stewart in it. Mm-hmm. It is fantastic. It's not like scary, like slasher scary, but it is edge of your seat.
Yes.
Gripping the arms like, oh, fuck.
And you're not going to expect it. Just like the VHS tape movies, watch them. They're so good.
Yeah.
They're so good.
Sinister.
Sinister. Hereditary is good.
Oh, God.
Hereditary.
Every time, I always forget about Hereditary until
Hereditary's
somebody
so
reminds
good.
me of Hereditary, and it's because I've blacked out Hereditary.
I'm trying to think. What's that? I like more, like, scary jump scares don't bother me.
Yeah.
But, like, Europa Report and, like, the things that are, like, you're floating in space and there's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
Either there's a Deus Machina coming to save you, or you're going to die.
To die, the
The
inevitable,
hopelessness.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
the inexorable doom type
that's
scenarios.
the one that get to me.
Oh, speaking of which, Event Horizon was.
Event Horizon was cool.
Yeah.
I like the sci-fi. It never really scared me. The scenes were pretty cool, but the idea of opening a portal to hell it's a cool synopsis.
Yeah.
Play some scary video games, too.
From space.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
also a
Yeah.
scary thing you can do. Scary video games, scary.
Mortuary Assistant.
Mortuary
Just
Assistant.
play it.
Hellraiser, all the Hellraiser movies are pretty
Oh,
cool.
I haven't seen the new one.
The one that just came out.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all really good. Like I like the Cenobites. Like I like getting into like their history and story. And,
Yeah.
like,
Right. And the Hellraiser movies actually have good stories with them.
Yeah.
Every single one of them.
it's tough because some of the graphics are
Yeah.
80s.
Yeah.
It just
Chris
is
and I
what
at
it
the
is.
same time, they're 80s.
But the stories are cool, and if you get into some of the background of like Pinhead and the Chatterer and the Leviathan,
Yeah.
it's really cool to watch to learn about the backstories that he had with all of that with Clive
Right.
Barker's like stories.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Also, a good movie. It's not jump scare horror, but it's called The Cube. The Cube was really good. I had you watch that one with me. Remember, they wake up in a room and they have to solve mathematical equations to go from room to room. And if you're wrong, that cube gets wiped out. But then they realize they're in a big cube.
Just like a big like Rubik's cube.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen The Box? It had what is her name?
Neve Campbell.
Nope, not her at all. The chick from Something About Mary.
Cameron Diaz?
Oh.
It has Cameron Diaz and the guy who played Cyclops in the X-Men movies.
James Marsden? Or something Marsden, right?
Maybe, I don't know.
The guy who played Cyclops? That's
Yeah.
not James Marsden.
No, the guy who played Cyclops in the X-Men movies.
Yeah, I can't think of his name.
But it's him and her, and it's really well written, and it's not scary in the ways you think it would be scary, but it's really off-putting and amazingly written. And I
Okay.
can't find it fucking anywhere to buy, or I just want to stream it, and I can't even like.
Yeah, it's James Marsden.
Yeah, I can't even Amazon it because it's not on Amazon at times, and it's like I love this movie so much, and I want my wife to see it. It is off-putting as fuck.
Yeah.
Well,
I'll see if I can find it.
It's good.
find some
Is
scary
it like
movies.
the cube? Does it sound like the cube? Because I just
No,
want to make sure I
it's
didn't
a
have the.
whole different synapse.
Okay.
So, yeah, find some scary movies. Because guess what? Halloween is here.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Spoopy Ween.
Spoopy, scary skeletons.
Happy Clean Your Ween.
Yeah, make sure you do that because it could get scary down there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also, no one's handing out fentanyl to your kids. That shit's expensive.
Or a Glock.
I keep
Or
seeing,
even edibles. Nobody's paying that money for your
No.
fucking child.
I keep watching these videos of like, well, they're putting fentanyl in the candy. I'm like, they're not giving out free drugs. That's not a thing they do.
No.
Especially when you won't know where you got it.
Exactly.
There's no way to come back and reap the rewards.
Exactly.
Alrighty.
Idiots.
Goodbye.
Just
Love
like there
you.
was never
See you
razor
next
blades
time.
and apples.
Nope.
Merry Christmas.
Bye. Bye.